These magnificent animals are doing what they do best. They would run on a desert. They would run on a beach. They would run in a field. They would run without a track, without a lure. They are one of the fastest animals on the face of the earth. Dating back to ancient history, greyhounds have been revered in art and culture, beloved for their endurance, grace, and heart. Their sporting life is based on companionship and mutual respect between man and animal. Greyhound racing is young, only 3 generations old in America. This is a story told by the people who lived and loved this life. Before track racing in an oval, greyhounds competed in coursing events, which were popular in England and Ireland for centuries. Greyhound owners would match their animals against a rabbit in an open field. This kind of competition flourished in the United States in the late 1800s, with the first official event taking place in Kansas in 1886. The invention of the mechanical lure in the 1920s transformed the sport into an organized race with regularly scheduled meets nationwide. Though to say that the events were regularly scheduled in the 20s is somewhat misleading. Glenn Garver spent his entire life in the greyhound business, well over 70 years, until he died in 1988 after leaving a written record of the early days.
Well, the first successful track was in Tulsa. This was in 1921. They didn't have lights, but opened anyway and installed them later. You didn't need but 1 or 2 dogs to race then. 6 or 8 was considered a lot. See, Tulsa was an oil boom town, so they figured there'd be a good audience. And they were right. Very nice. Very classy. Well, we followed the tracks wherever we heard one was starting up. Someone would say to my dad, "Say, I hear they've opened a joint in East St. Louis." And that was how it went.
The early years were vagabond years. World War I was just over. The automobile provided mobility and promised adventure. The greyhound owners were largely farm boys from Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, who had grown up in an easy and respectful relationship with animals. No longer did they have to stay landlocked in the middle of the United States. They could hit the road. They could seek their fortunes. The business was about to take on more structure and regulations, but no matter the external changes that would occur, the constant over the next few decades remained the relationship between greyhound and man.
I have read articles stating dogs do not remember more than 6 months. But let me tell you of something that happened to me that has stuck with me all my life. I had to go to the track to see a fella. I was about 50 feet from the paddock where they were getting the race ready, when all at once I heard a dog barking. I thought, that sure sounds like Tommy, the kennel name of Sunburn, the first dog I ever owned. I had sold him and not seen him in more than 2 years. I looked at the program, and there it was, Sunburn. Well, I started toward the paddock, and that little dog went crazy trying to get to me. The post bell rang, and they left for the post. I can still see that little black face as he looked back over his shoulder going out on the track. He need not have worried, because I was there when he finished his race. I bought him right then. He was 7 years old. That was 60 years ago, and tears come to my eyes when I think of that little fellow remembering me.
The Roaring '20s roared right into the Depression. America was hungry for entertainment and diversion in the 1930s, and the tracks began to flourish. State governments stepped in with strict supervision and regulations. As pari-mutuel gambling evolved, each state made the decision to legalize gambling, and if they did, participate in the revenue. After World War II began, the early 1940s brought some new challenges.